Alrighty then. So we are working our way towards the new year. We've got 1 hour on my coast. Let's see if I can open up a new document so we can plan live. Here we are with documents. Boom, 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 boom. Do I have that? So, trying to plan out the new year here. Because just thinking about the year we've done so far, has been it's been a ride. I've learned definitely some things I am capable of and incapable of doing in the time frame, and I've had enough setbacks this year that I'm frustrated with what I've not been able to achieve. All right, let's just go back. And so I kind of want to see what my options are, kind of plan out, think about where I want to go with what I'm doing this year. Because I can't just keep winging it. Like, we know come October next year that life is going to get in the way, and I can't plan to do the same kind of things that I tried to do this year. Because as much as it doesn't matter to a certain degree, like, there's no deadline, there's no you're fired if you don't do this kind of cap on what I do, it's sort of crushing for me to imagine the goals I want to achieve for October and November and December of a year, and then just have everything wreck my shot of trying to do that. Everything got in the way this year. Everything broke my opportunities to do what I wanted to do. And it's not so much that, like, I'm angry that things got in the way. The only thing I'm angry at is, of course they did. I live a life in a situation where that's just going to happen. That's how my life works. And I didn't plan for that. I failed to plan for that. And I failed to do what I wanted to do in that time. Makes me feel like a failure. So I don't want to start a year with a plan like that that's going to fail and make me feel bad for failing. So having the ability to plan out and figure out where you're going with your plan, I think I have a better sense of what I'm able to do now. And I think one of the things that I became aware of as I was doing some of this year is I have a lot of categories of content that I enjoy marginally. There are some things I love. There's some things I enjoy dabbling with from time to time. And then there's some things that I had an interesting idea on. And I gave each of those things equal weight in my scheduling for the year. And because of that, my planning and my working for the year is like, I want to keep doing some of these projects. And you can see it when we were doing the what was it? I think it was some of the artwork stuff and some of the game design and audio stuff. Like, you saw it right off the bat with, I want to do some music for my channels and sound effects for other things. And, like, the music for the channel felt like an obligation that I felt like something I had to say I should work on, not because I wanted to work on it, but because I wanted it to exist. And there's a difference. There's an important difference between those two things. Putting the work into something because you want it to exist, but have no passion for the making of it, makes harder work of that thing. Whereas having something that you're passionate about, something that you're excited about, and you want to bring into the world, that doesn't feel as drudgery as the other. And so, like, the sound effects and the potential uses I could put them to, like, I haven't used them yet, but I enjoyed working on it. And so by the same token, I could do something very similar for other projects. But the music for my channels, I've not achieved anything I'm satisfied with yet. And I don't feel right now the passion or the drive to work on that. So, like, I would have to force myself into doing that. And I don't want the things we do on this channel to be things we force ourselves to do. I want these to be creative projects. And it's there's a post that goes around every now and then about, like, it's okay for your art not to make a living. Like, it's okay for your music or your drawings or your paintings to not be, a marketable skill. You don't have to sell it. You don't have to get into a gallery. You don't have to perform it in front of an audience of hundreds of people. Like, if your art is something you do to express yourself, just express yourself with it. Don't put the added weight of an obligation to achieve or gain the approval of other people. Don't make that a burden put onto the goal, the project that you're doing, because that's a weight that it doesn't need to carry. And so I want to kind of keep that in mind. And so early on in the year, there were definite signs with the audio project. You saw it with some of the artwork stuff. And as we got further into the year, like, wanting to continue to do the 7 categories of content that we started the year with, wanting to do those at regular intervals meant that there were a few times, like the culinary stuff. Yeah, I can keep pulling recipes out of my head at random, and I sometimes have fun with that. But to say, like, okay, so we did mukbangs, we did a cooking show. What's another format of cooking thing we can do that makes it successful? Like, I don't care. Like, I genuinely think it, like, every now and then blogging a recipe, maybe doing a cooking show, and taste test videos. Like, I'm good with that. Like, and in a year like this, where we had roughly, if you do every other month, you do a thing, there would be 6 different things. Like, I don't want to, like, I found what I want from it. I don't want to have to come up with a new way 4 more times. Like, taste test videos, cooking show, and if I do a cooking show, why wouldn't I just then write up the recipes, compile them onto a post that I can make on my own website, and when I have enough of them, put them together in a cookbook that you could have on your shelf. That's good enough. I don't need to do more than that. So, repeating the cooking show, like, I do want to get some practice at that at some point, because I do still want to do my cooking channel, because I can continue to do recipes. And on this channel, I may continue to do taste tests as a part of the experience, because I still do those, and I've got some recorded ones. I've got taste test videos recorded that I did throughout this year that I just haven't found the slot to fit in on the rest of them. And I've got stuff from when I traveled across country like 2 years ago that I haven't got the rest of the month worked out. And so that's sort of one of the things that I'm trying to avoid is, like, I shouldn't have to feel like in a given month, if I did a taste test and designed a board game, but I didn't read a book or make a video, that I can't upload the taste test because I haven't done the video. Like, I want to be able to choose during the year. Like, if I do 3 taste tests in a month instead of 1 per month, I can just upload those taste tests and it not be an obligation to do a certain sequence of things. So I feel like my goal for the year should be a little bit more of the a little less of the high structure format that I was using this past year. And I feel like in a given month, it shouldn't be like this week's project is, and I should be able to just say like, I'm really feeling this project right now. Join me for planning this one. And so, like, logistically, that's the way I feel about what I want to do this coming year. So, like, when I really got into a project this past year was when I started with the story for The Goblin's Daughter and blew that out into assembling a larger universe. I could have done, like, I still did weeks more work on that after the week was over. I still play with it to this day, just dabbling a little bit more and fleshing some things out and structuring things out, and like sit down on a day where I've got a little free time and think like, okay, so Goblin's Daughter implies a world where there are some wizarding humans. The main character isn't one, but they're mistaken for one. They go over into the Fey world. Well, what does the actual wizarding world of humanity look like? Where is that located? What are they doing? What are their goals? What is their separation from the greater human world? And so there's a part of me that just kind of feels like, why can't I just keep playing in that? And why can't I invite other people to play in that world too? And so, like, I want to do things like that, where I start a project and I just talk about that project for however many weeks I'm doing that. And maybe during that time frame, I pick up another project that I'm working on. Because that's the way I work. I don't always stick with the same project all the time straight through. Sometimes I go like, I hit a point at that where I'm like, I like where it is, but it's not quite where I need it to be to start, really start out the process of a finished product on that. So I'll play with it a little more here and there each day, but I'll also go over and work on a board game design. That's just the sort of the way I would do things. And I guess the short version of all that is I want to go to a slightly more organic approach to how I do the things I do. Not a rigidly structured set. Now, what are the things I want to do? Well, I've been doing some gaming / storytelling with some other people. I've been playing some tabletop role-playing games, and it's sort of become a mild obsession for me. I started building a playable setting in that, and I keep coming up with ideas of game mechanics or house rules that might make the gameplay a little bit easier or more unique in a different way. And I'd love to just try some of those out. And so I want to kind of like explain what I'm working on and talk about test runs I do with people, and maybe do a series of videos where sort of like a recap of the adventure we had and sort of discuss how the things we try out in those are. So one of the things you can do let me space this out a little bit better. Moving over to going forward into the year, how this applies to some of the things I do. Like, there are game supplements that I can review. Like, there's a couple different versions of certain games. There's one I'm looking at right now to download and play out for tabletop role play. And like, I can review that as a product. I can review it as a board game. I don't know that I need to distinguish between the two. I can also talk about what we did in that gameplay and make a story of it as if it were like reviewing a book. or writing a story. And so I think I'm probably going to end up blurring some of the things I do. So it's not just going to be read a book, review a book, and from there move on to doing a movie. Like, I think it would be fun for me this year to review some gaming products as tabletop games and products, and also sort of review stories, but also write stories. And so, like, what I was thinking of is, if I do something like this, I would thoroughly enjoy doing a world build design where we build a world, and I can write a story in it, you can write a story in it, other people can write a story in it, we can share them and discuss what we made. And then if I want to, or am able to get some of it together, do a video short of a character in that setting, like a video skit. And I can share my customized rules as a board gaming product, a board gaming design exercise, and then maybe sell a supplement as a product, or develop a supplement as a product. And I don't know, like, do artwork for it, drawings, paintings, or maybe do some musical themes or sound effects for it, or something like that effect. And maybe make a video game element for it. Like that, literally, like, just playing at making a gaming piece like that is something that covers most of my categories. It doesn't really cover the health and well-being, and it doesn't really cover the food categories. Not that I couldn't figure out how to do it. Could you figure out a snack recipe or a drink recipe that would be based off of the episode as a themed item? Sure, probably. Maybe decorate a cake or something like that. Yeah, I could probably do that. That might be fun to do. And here's the thing, though. If I'm doing that during the course of an adventure development, I might not develop the adventure for sale. I don't want that missing product category to prevent me from doing the whole rest of the project. And so there's maybe some things I don't do during the course of that. But I like the idea of reading some fiction. I still want to do reviews of books. I still want to do reviews of movies. I still want to do taste tests. I probably won't as aggressively pursue board game reviews. And product reviews can kind of go either way for me. Like, I don't want to keep buying, I really don't want to buy a new product every month to review it, but I probably could. I don't want to necessarily develop and try to sell a new thing every month either, or every 2 months, as the case for this past year would have been. And some of those things blend. Like, if I write a short story and I publish it on Kindle, is that a product, or is that a writing project? Yes. So I want to give myself a little bit more of that organic freedom. I want to sort of blend the edges of these projects that I'm working on, so that they're not so rigidly divided from one another, and they're not so rigidly scheduled throughout the year. So I think I'm probably going to end up moving largely more towards focusing on writing, board games, maybe a few videos, just for the fun of playing around with videos and practicing skills. And maybe some video games, artwork, and like make that the bulk of it. So video games, board games, story writing, videos, art. Like, that's 5 of my 8 categories. Now, I do want to do the series on health and well-being stuff. I do think that would be fun to do. And I do want to do video skits. But I don't feel like I need to as rigidly demand of myself 6 to 12 of those videos a year. I think that's pushing things a little bit. But I think that's a category of things I want to do is world building. So like one of the things I've been thinking of is there's a game out there. It's sort of a game. I don't know if we can even fully call it a game. I haven't really looked at it enough yet to say, but a developer out there came out with something called Microscope. And it's actually a way of collaborative storytelling. And I'd like to be able to pull that up on a live video like this, and the chat off to the side can start discussing things about, like, I could play it with the audience. Basically, like, all right, what are we focusing on here? What kinds of things don't we want? And people would give suggestions, and I can cherry pick out of there, and we can structure together a world build. And then from there, it's, what is it? The plot points or something like that, events or something like that. And then it's scenes and stuff like that. Like, I don't know enough about the game, but being able to just practice it live on a channel like this would be something I could have fun with. And at the end of the first round, we're going to have a loose structure to work in. And then, like, maybe the next day, maybe the next week, we come back and we hit the second layer down and get more detailed look at it. And from those detailed looks, you have maybe the foundations of a short story that you could write. Or maybe what you end up with after that is the foundations of an adventure you could do on a role-playing game. So like, you might build a timeline on your first week with the flavor, the theme, and the events, the rough history of a time, an era for the players to play in. And then the second round out, you're building a particular adventure those players can play on. And then later on, you could probably do some more detailed look at particular scenes that those players are going to encounter. And that's, you can compile that all together into an adventure for a role-playing game, or you can go that same path and build the world, the timeline, the era, and then the very kind of focus of the story, and then scenes from the story for a short story. You could also do the same thing for, like, instead of doing scenes as a sequence of events being told to storytell, you can do scenes as literal paintings or artworks or animations or radio plays. And so, like, there's a lot of ways you can do audio, video, skits, write a book, make a tabletop game component out of it, do visual artworks for the end result of that. So doing the world building gameplay testing of something like Microscope and its expansions could be something I do for 2 or 3 months, once a week, while I also try to do my the ideas of the video skits that I want to try, with no obligation to say, like, yes, this week this is the one we're doing. Like, just be able to try these things that I want to play at, and play demo some of the games I developed, or the homage videos where I try art styles, or the news program or reviews that I wanted to do for products. Like, I think I could just do it that way and just be honest to those things rather than a rigid structure that immediately, when somebody does something unexpected, derails my ability to do that, and I can't finish the month off. I can't do the 2 things after that that I wanted to do because I haven't finished this one yet. I don't want to do that anymore. Like, sometimes things make it so that I can't finish one of the projects that I'm working on, and I don't want it to mean that I can't get to the next project because it's not in the right sequence. I don't want to do that anymore. I think you saw right around, I think it was probably around June, July, where I started to say, like, it makes more sense to try to do food this week because I won't be able to do a writing project while I'm out traveling or whatever. Like, I want to just be able to say, like, the thing that's on my mind, the thing that I have the resources for right now, and the thing that I have the time to do right now are these things. And we'll be back to doing some other things in the near future as the time and ability make themselves available. I want to do that more. And I think I'm coming up on a point where that's where I want to go with the channel. I think the creating food ones, I think I'm just going to wean myself off of. Occasionally I'll do an experiment or just a goofy little project. But I think that's something I should set aside for when I get my cooking channel going. And maybe this is all just me talking out of my butt. I want to give it a try this year and see if it makes more sense for what I'm doing. I did really good for the first 6 months of this past year. And then things became too difficult with all the other things going on in my life. And I don't want to continue on the road of thinking like, well, life's just going to make it so that I can't do the things I want to do. Like, I still have the chance to do some things that I enjoy. I shouldn't put off a new taste test because I already have a backlog of them. I should just do one because that's where I am. That's what I'm interested in doing. And I know I worry about it a little bit because I know it makes for inconsistent and confusing content. I've got a lot of things I'm interested in. Doing the health and well-being category content, I want to do that again. That's something I'm interested in, something I'm passionate about. I'm also just paranoid that I'm going to do a horrible job at it. But so what? It's something I'm excited about. And so being able to just pop that in and do it without the sense of like, well, the people who came for the board games don't care. Like I'll let them know when I'm doing something board game related. I don't know how else to plan that. I can't keep holding myself to an artificial structure where I don't get to do things because I want to do them, but because that's what the structure tells me. And so I think that's sort of where I am on these projects, where I want to go. And I guess I can do some live videos for the first week here as I start to figure out where I'm going with some of this. But I think for this first week, I'm going to sort of figure out what it is I want to put my time into right now. And some of that may simply be the structure I need to put into place would be the opening video, thumbnail designs that talk about what kind of content I'm putting up, and an ending where I talk a little bit more about what I'm going to do next time. So when I'm working on a series of videos where it's writing short stories based off of a gameplay event where we did some world building, and we want to talk about where we're going with a video game, like I'll say, like, I'm this far into a video game design, and I think I should be at a point where we can discuss more of it in 6 days or something like that. maybe that's just all I need to do. Like, or maybe I just need to trim back what I do on this channel. I don't know. Maybe I need to separate out, filter out, and focus just on the writing, board game design, maybe some skits and artwork for this channel. Or maybe video games. I don't know. Board game and video game focus? I don't know. What do you think? What is the thing that you're most interested in potentially seeing? How can I better structure this channel that it doesn't swamp viewers in things they don't necessarily care about, that they're not interested in? Because I know, like, I started 2 channels when I started my channels expressly because I already knew nobody's going to care about how I can remelt and reshape plastic into gears on a channel where I'm going to be doing writing and video game stuff. They're just too different. Those 2 types of content are too different, and that's why I have the 2 channels. Perhaps I need to trim back some of what I do on this channel, and I might start by shifting the health and well-being over to one of the other categories that I started. Back when I started this channel, there was Roving Jack and this channel, and I started a companion channel for Roving Jack that was Steaming Mad, that was going to be more sort of educational and informational rather than tinkering. And then I started something on this channel that was going to be its twin for a few other types of content. It might be time to split things here. I might just make this more of a I might do like writing, board games, audio adventures, and video skits here. And writing, board games, video games, and creative creations. Whereas health and well-being, food, content, a couple of other styles of different video content. I'll have to really think about that. I'll get back on this tomorrow, I think. We're dropping over onto the other channel for this one some of the overflow from this channel and trim this back to a little more focused content. Because when I started this channel, it was sort of like a Dropbox for all of my creative hobbies. Yeah, when I started YouTubing, I did Roving Jack first, was my first channel. Inspired content was what I was going to use for things that weren't tinkering or science related. And so I did these 2 channels with the intent that I would always do Cooking with Kuno, which was going to be my cooking channel. And from there, sort of separate out food. I even secured the name Cooking with Kuno for one of my channels later. And then while I was in the midst of doing that, I got to thinking, like, it might be fun to do sort of like an educational series of science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics concepts, just demonstrating like science fair projects or neat math tricks or weird engineering projects that, like, there are tensegrities, which are tension-based structures that use tension of lines and solid objects for structural integrity. Those are fascinating. I love them. And I'd love to just do a video where I explore them. It's not a tinkering project. It's not a makerspace visit. So it doesn't really fit with Roving Jack. So at the time, I started the channel called Steaming Mad. And that was going to be some science experiments. And sometimes I get on little rants with people who have weird ideas of how science works. You know, the perpetual motion machine folks, or some people who do not understand how medicine works and how, you know, diluting something so much that you're rubbing essentially distilled water onto a wound isn't going to cure you of your cancer. Like, it's just like, I wanted to do a few rants on that while also doing science experiments, and that's more scientifically educational stuff. Roving Jack was always meant to be like skills, techniques, hacks, tricks, and tinkering, and finding out from other people who do that. And so there felt like there was enough of a divide to do them as separate channels. So I have Roving Jack and I have Steaming Mad. STEAMINGMAD. Steaming Mad was the second channel to that. I haven't put any content on them yet. And then, like, this channel, I started with my 4 categories of content where I was doing books, movies, board games, and products and services. Products and services got to the point where I was doing a taste test for every product or service. And there were products that I wanted to test that I didn't get to because I had the easier access to a taste test. So I added the category of taste test. And then from there, it was also wanting to do something art related and music related, because I felt that was a content type that I didn't explore enough of. It was something that I'm an artist in some ways, and I wanted to explore artwork. So I added artwork and music. And then health and well-being was just something I started as a way of dealing with some of my anxiety and depression issues I was dealing with at the time. And I did a few videos on that. But then I got to thinking about like physical exercise and other things like that that I could do. So I added that whole section as a category of content. And I was like, I don't want gaming to just be tabletop gaming, because I would love to share some of my favorite old video games and stuff. So I added video games as a category that I haven't done much with yet. And so now I have these 8 categories of content where really what I really should be thinking about is, like, what I originally set out to do here was share some of my nerdy enjoyment of certain things like books, movies, games, both board and video games. And that's sort of like where, like, I do want to maybe do some video creations, like make a science fiction short story video, or something, or some of like the choose your own adventure videos. Like, I do want to do those, so I can really have four types of content on this channel again, and spread the others out so that like the cooking and food related stuff, I can just shuffle on over to Cooking with Kuno, and some of the health and well-being stuff, and the art and music stuff, and some of the other video projects that don't necessarily fit the nerdy quality that I want to put on this channel. I can shuffle that over to the companion I built for this channel, which was originally going to be, I believe I named it Opportunity Forge. I'll have to go back and look at it. But so like each of my channels has an overflow. Like the focus for this should be just the things I enjoy. Like I can do reviews for books. I can do reviews of movies like this Star Wars movie that I'm going to go see. I can do reviews for TV shows. I can do reviews for board games that I find. And on top of that, I can develop board games, make video fun projects, and just do that for this channel. The other channel that's the overflow for this channel, I do an art week or something like that sometime, or do the health and well-being Sputterman project that I'm working on over there. And I think that makes more sense, splitting things up so that there's just not an 8 categories of content each month to do. And if not finished with category 5, I don't get to 6 or 7 or 8. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I have to be ready to launch them, and I don't think I'm there yet. But I think doing that to start the year off. I think what I want to try to do is, first of all, I don't think this year I'm going to do every day this year. I think a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule is probably as aggressive as I should get for this channel this year. And actually, let me think. I might just stick for this year on this channel to doing Sundays and Tuesdays, because those are my days off. I'm still working right now, and I'm working a fair amount still, and I can't guarantee that I'll not be doing a double shift, and I'll be getting back at like 10:30 at night, and I'll be leaving before, like, within an hour of waking up each day. So, like, jumping on, I might do like some simple update videos a few times during the week, but I think the focus is going to be on like a real work through day. And I don't know if I'll do as many live. I do want to do, I think I'm doing some gaming on Sunday nights. Every other Sunday night we do some gaming, and I may be upping that to every Sunday night. But I do feel like a weekly live video should be worth it, and a review video or two from time to time during each week roughly, and then a project video per week. So it's sort of going to be like a review, project, and blog. I guess like this is blogging, a talking head discussion of something. I think that makes more sense to try to do per week for this channel. And the rest of my content, like I need to get back to editing videos for Roving Jack, but those are edited. That doesn't require shooting space, the correct lighting, the timing. That's just editing. And I think during the week, if I can do it, if I can organize it, maybe doing one or two other content types for my overflow channel. So like the artwork stuff or the health and well-being stuff. Shoot a video, likely blogging or something to that effect, and editing and uploading those on a different schedule. I don't know that I'm ready to jump into Steaming Mad yet. I need to get back in touch with some of the people I hang out with at the Makerspace and kind of get back into some of that stuff again, because I do think there's something to be said for just doing some weird experiments from time to time and sharing the discussion of that. And I think pulling out some of my science fair project notes and stuff, and just doing demo projects and ooh wow science and engineering projects, that could be fun. I would enjoy that immensely, and I can see just doing that a little more lightly than what I'm doing so far on either of these two channels. So I want to get back into editing Roving Jack, and maybe split up what I'm doing here to get a little bit more nerdy and a little less, yeah, a little less just like the rigid structure that I went through this year. This year has been fun. It's been a fun experiment. I've been kind of interested to note some of the details that have gone on between my two channels so far, where I think the Roving Jack channel has continued to grow despite the fact that I haven't updated a video in months. I don't even remember if have I uploaded a video at all this year over there. I don't think I have. If I have, it was one or two. And then that's continued to grow. And that channel, despite the fact that I haven't put anywhere near as much effort and time into creating things for that channel as I have for, and I don't mean that as I'm putting little effort into it. I just mean like I've updated when I've updated. Here, I literally did the first half of this past year where I missed 7 days and felt guilty about it, where every day I put something up. and I think I've got 65, a little bit under 65 subscribers, and my viewing numbers are not substantially better. So clearly more content and more projects aren't making this reach more people or getting a bigger community involved with what I'm doing. So it's not going to be quantity necessarily. I hope to be able to increase the focus and the quality of this channel. And some of that's going to be down to not making it such a wide, chaotic spread. Like, you don't seem to, I mean, I'm sure there are aspects of food that you enjoy. I'm sure also that when I put out food-related content, you're only doing it because you feel a connection to this channel, not because you're interested in that particular topic. I'm sure you didn't care about the cucumber melon pie. I'm sure it didn't do anything for you. And so, like, maybe I just needed, like, that doesn't need to be on this channel. You know, you like video games, maybe some board games. Some video skits would probably be enjoyable, and maybe some product reviews. Maybe that's just what I need to be doing. I don't have to be everything on one channel. And I think that's what I want to split up. Steaming Mad, I'll say Steaming Mad I do want to do like some science fair projects on. But I also, one of the weird projects I had as an idea was, once upon a time, somebody was just making an analogy, explaining the fact that when you think about the entire history of the planet Earth, and if you were to schedule that all out, that entire history of humanity has occurred within, if you stretched out the entire history of Earth to a year, the entire history of humanity has occurred at less than a second before midnight on New Year's Eve for the next year. Like, we have been such a small sliver of the timeline of Earth that in the time it takes them to blink when New Year's ball hits the bottom of the fall is how long we've existed in the history of Earth. I'm kind of curious about all the rest of that time. And I thought it would be kind of a fun example to do a year's worth of videos where every day is a chunk of time discussing what's happening on the Earth that day, and then do it to a degree that when you get closer and closer, like, it's going to be in that last month that you first see dinosaurs. And it's going to be that last day when you first see mammals. And it's going to be that last hour that you're going to start to see primates. And then it's just like, that's fascinating to me. And I think it would be just a fun project to delineate that time scale. And by the same token, could you do something similar? The history of the universe. The Earth has only been around for a small chunk of that timeline. The history of the universe is trillions of years old, but the Earth is only billions. I think I have that right. But it's a research project with some video filming techniques and some sort of acting skit design for it, and maybe some fun visual effects. Yeah, the cooking stuff, I mean, that particularly has another place. Like, when I originally came up with my idea of doing things on YouTube, my original idea was to do a cooking show with a robot host that would do the cooking, and there would be simple recipes of figuring out, like, okay, so how would this robot hack this recipe in a new direction? And like, some of it's just realizing that, like, a robot doesn't necessarily understand what makes sense for food. And so it's going to be partly just like a story of a robot cook and figuring things out that way. And that would just be fun. I could have fun doing a cooking show that way. And so making my own ketchup could be a video over there. It didn't have to happen here, except for somewhere along the way when I built this channel, I was doing product reviews, And some of those product reviews were for potato chips and candies. And then that became all the product reviews that I did, because there were so many options to do those. And doing a taste test video was really actually pretty easy and fun. I got into doing that. And then when I got into talking about, like, yeah, I've do some culinary experiments. Like, part of the project of my channel here is to come up with creative ideas inspired by the things that I explore. So when I explore a product, it's exploring a set of sneakers and thinking about ways where, like, the treads wear out on these in a very unreasonable amount of time, where the rest of the shoe is still good. So a product idea would be to make a replacement tread that you can just attach yourself and keep going on your shoes. That's a product idea. And that's the thing, is like, it soon became a factor of things ballooning out and expanding. Like, there's a lot of things that I love to explore. But like I said earlier in this video, one of the things that keeps happening with some of this is that I started with things that seemed like they could be the same category. Like, food is a product that I can purchase and review. So are sneakers. But when one starts to consume the whole channel, I split them. And so now you have two where you used to have one. And that happened for other things. And so I ended up with not just board games, not just games, but board games and video games as two categories instead of one. And so, like, looking at those types of things and how they separated out, there are also projects that I want to do, like the Choose Your Own Adventure audio games that we were talking about earlier. Is that a product? Is it a video? Is it music? Audio? Is it writing? What category is that? And I would almost prefer never to have to ask that question. It's an audio adventure game. And that's all I need to say. Let it be that, and just try to do it. Explore that and not worry about whether or not that's the right category for this week or this month or whatever I'm doing at the time. And so, like, I think removing some of that rigid structuring is where I want to go with this. And part of that is really realizing that, like, some of the things that I have some interest in, I don't need to toss into this channel. I think it adds clutter and it diminishes the focus. If you came for writing, you would probably enjoy the writing process or the story generation that happens in the Choose Your Own Adventure audio game. But you're not going to care a lot about the fish taco stuffed peppers. That's just, it doesn't fit what I'm doing here, but it fits fine over in Cooking with Kuno. So I should just shuffle it over to that one. And by the same token, the eating keto, eating high protein, eating carb experiment, and the cardio or sustained exercises versus explosive exercises versus strength exercises, those are cool, and they're something I'm interested in and passionate about, but they don't really belong here. There is another channel that I have built that I could just move that over into, and it's a better fit than necessarily distracting from what I'm doing here. Here is creative stuff. Here are some ideas I got from checking out this thing. Here's the review of these things. Here are the ideas it generated. Let's make something creative with that process. And that's board games, that's video games, that's movies, and that's books. And some of the creative things I'll create will be videos like this. And, you know, it's like, I think that's what I need to do for this channel. I also know there are some other things that I could do to spread this channel a little bit further. And I should probably look at doing that. It's on the list of things to take care of. And we're running close to an hour tonight. and we're almost at New Year's here. I've got some video I want to finish up tonight because I've been watching some things like Metal Hurlant, which, wow, is that TV series hard. It's not really even a TV series. It's an Amazon Prime series. But, oh, wow. Part of what's interesting about it is it definitely makes me aware of some of the thoughts I have about like making a video series on my own. Yeah, Happy New Year. Making a video series on my own where I talked about like reshooting the sequence of things for the Star Wars, or sometimes just redoing scenes or structure for some of the Marvel movies, like the Iron Man 3, I think it was, that certain elements bugged me enough that I can imagine rewriting that just a bit. Like, I think it would be fun to do that with some video trickery. And yes, my videos are going to be rough and homemade looking. That's just part of the nature of doing it. But watching Metal Hurlant, oh, wow, does it make it hurt so much to think that, yeah, some of mine are going to look worse than that. Some of what I see when I watch some of the Metal Hurlant, and you'll see some of my latest comments, I'm starting to get a little vicious with it, and I don't mean to be, but there are aspects of that series, like, who is your writer? Like, you had two people on a spaceship, like a fighter ship, flying through space, attacking space monsters exterior to their ship, shooting and killing them. And one of the guys in the ship is mortally wounded. The ship was never damaged. How did you mortally wound your co-pilot without damaging your ship when the only attack possible coming at you is external to the ship? How did you do that? That is the worst writing. And there's a scene where he encounters a character. It's the woman I've been dreaming of. That's the first mention of a dream about anybody ever in that episode. And it's an anthology series, so there are no previous episodes about those characters. So it is horribly written. So I feel like, and maybe this is me being delusional, I could definitely write better than that. And I think some of the fun of doing videos on this channel would be just doing better written, maybe not great special effects, but I also feel like I would love to make little models like spaceships and planets and sets and do some green screen tricks and some puppetry stuff and just see what I could do with it. It may not be great, but it would be fun. And I think in the end, like, that's what I'm looking for, is not only to have the fun of doing it, the fun of sharing it, but also having other people look at it and go like, that was fun, but I think I can do better. And I want to see what they do better. I want to watch them do what they think they would like better, because that would be amazing for me. I would love for people to say like, no, I think this is what should happen. And then you make an episode and we can all see what you make, and we can all like encourage you to make more and do more fun stuff. That's what I want to do. That's what I set out to do when I started this channel. This year has been a fun experiment in seeing exactly how much I could rail out in building and designing new products and ideas and whatnot. But that's not what the focus of this channel should be. This channel should be reviews of things that I just discovered and I'm fascinated by. And right now, a lot of that's going to be tabletop role-playing games. But I'm also thinking of building myself one of the, like a Pi arcade system, the Raspberry Pi Cade, and or maybe building it into a box to look like a Nintendo Entertainment System. And then loading hundreds or thousands of old games that I have copies of on floppy disks that you just can't find anymore. Like the old TSR, Strategic Simulations Incorporated, role-playing video games like Pool of Radiance and those games. Those games were my bread and butter. I was passionate about those games. I love those games immensely, and I would love to do a playthrough of some of those, review some of them, and then come up with ideas of how to do new versions of some of those things. I I I would try to track down some of the text adventure games. There was one I used to play. I can't remember. You play a. It's not really like a full text. There was like games like Zork existed, and I think I maybe saw that once or twice. But there was a game I played where it is visual. Like you have a character that you can move across the screen, and each screen was a set screen with minor animation on it. So like there was one scene where there was a grate in the floor with a tentacle monster underneath of it. And if you walked straight across the grate, the tentacles would come up, tear you apart, and pull you down through the grate, and you'd try again. Well, it turns out, like, if you just moved the character up against the wall and moved along the wall, you could get past the pit. And that was one of the things. But another time, like, you could go into a cave and your supplies were running low, so you had a container of dehydrated water, and it was totally jokey. It was full of stupid jokes like that. But you had a container of dehydrated water, and so you needed to replenish your supplies. So there was a dripping pool in a cave, and that's what you refilled your container with. And you had to type in text, refill container. And that was just like, that was an important part of certain parts of the process. And those would be fun to revisit. I think like I would love to do reviews of some of those old games. One of the ones that frustrates me a little bit right now is I used to play a game called Escape Velocity. They had EV Overdrive was the sequel, and then EV Nova was the third in the trilogy. And they were all interesting, fun games. Structurally, they're great. They don't exist anymore. You cannot get them anymore. You might be able to find them somewhere online, or simulations of them, or reboots of them, but you just really can't get them anymore. And that's a disappointment. The company, I think, went under, and their website is gone. So getting a copy of them is hard. I would love to do some playthroughs of them. The other thing was the game was, it was one of those sharewares, like the payware or whatever. You could play for free, but there were certain things that you couldn't unlock until you had paid for the password, the code to unlock it. And there was also a point where you could play for 30 days before the game had a AI bounty hunter that would come out and hunt you, and you couldn't stop him. He was invulnerable to your attacks, but he could just wreck you. And so after 30 days of gameplay, the game just stops being playable. So even if you found a copy, you can't register it anymore. So you can't get those passwords that let you unlock that part of the game. So like, I would love to be able to track down a version of that game. And even more so, I would love to sort of get a sense of how that game was put together, because there's space in the market for something like that to be rebuilt. We could probably use something like the RPG Maker, with instead of character artwork, you do the spaceships. Instead of grass and trees, you do space. And instead of castles and towns that you land on and go inside, make them planets. And those types of things, like, you should be able to rebuild a version of those types of games. And I would love to do both of those things. I'd love to be able to pull up some of my old favorite NES games and do a playthrough on it. I have an old NES. I might be able to rig that one up. It'd be interesting to see if I can make that work. I'd also like to see if I could, like, so there are video game things that I would love to explore, and a lot of it's going to be old school, because I don't I don't do a lot of the more modern recent games. It's a lot of them have become too focused on the first-person shooter format, and that was never like a huge thing for me. I was never big on that to a certain degree. So, like revisiting other types of games that are out there, and maybe trying some of the newer ones. I would try The Last of Us 1 and 2. I'd try Overwatch 1 and 2. I think I would definitely love to explore Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red. I'd love to explore this. And also, CD Projekt Red came out with a tabletop role-playing game based off of the original Cyberpunk 2020 that came out years ago, back in the 80s, I think. And they rebuilt the tabletop role-playing, because the tabletop role-playing game came first. Then the video game came second. And they created a tabletop role-playing game for the new video game that's inspired by it. And so, like, just the history of that whole conglomeration, I would love to revisit those. I'd love to check those out. Play the tabletop game, play the video game. I'd love to do those types of things. And I think that's what this channel should be. Like weight training and bicycling and dietary differences, that can go over to Opportunity Forge. Recipes and stuff like that can go over onto Cooking with Kuno. And it's like, I think that makes more sense. I need to spend a little time thinking about it. I will come back tomorrow. Like I said, I've got some things going on here. Happy New Year, I guess, here. I think we just crossed the threshold. Happy New Year to you in an hour. I think I'm going to be hopping over and doing a few more videos tonight. And then tomorrow night, I will do a little bit more of what I think we'll be doing this year. The future of the channel and where I think I'm going. All right, so thanks for joining me, and thanks for the input. I really enjoy the interactivity of doing these live. I think that's the thing I've enjoyed most about doing this. And about the only reason why I would continue to do live videos throughout this year is the continued participation and cooperation, because I think it's valuable to me. And I'm hoping there's some inspiration and enthusiasm for those viewing as well. All right. Thanks for joining me. Take care and Happy New Year. See you tomorrow. Yeah, I may go see the new Star Wars movie today. Couldn't find a showtime that ran through midnight. That was unfortunate. I really wanted to spend the new year ringing in with a galaxy far, far away. We'll see what we can do for tomorrow, though. All righty. See you tomorrow. Yep, that didn't work. Are we breaking on midnight? Is that the Cinderella syndrome there?